Dear colleagues, may I invite you to start this afternoon session and to take your seats. So this session is devoted to the science, technology, and innovation cooperation in the APEC region. And this is actually a follow-up to many discussions which have been taken place at the APEC, in the APEC framework at different levels of the leadership, particularly in the earlier policy declarations in Honolulu and later in 2012, the importance of science, technology, and innovation as drivers of economic and, growth and social progress in the APEC countries was stressed very strongly. And then in the course of several international discussions, actually we initiated this topic on analyzing science, technology, innovation cooperation within the APEC area. As an initial step, it was proposed that we should first of all establish sort of a methodological framework to provide some data collection and a basis for policy analysis. First of all, using I would say the classical standardized international approaches developed by the OECD and reflected in the so-called Frascati manual for R&D indicators and the Oslo manual for innovation statistics, plus using other external databases for bibliometrics, patents, UN database for international trade, and so forth. So after all, this project was accepted and politically supported by APEC at quite a high level. And then, so we are glad to present the results of that study right away. I am also glad to stress that the latest Manila Declaration, which was accepted by the leaders of the APEC nations just a couple of days ago, contains a very strong reference to science, technology, innovation as drivers of growth and sources for sustainable and balanced economic and social development. So it means that we actually are right in proposing this idea for the implementation. I am also glad to welcome our colleagues from many APEC economies. I think it's an important sign of mutual interest in this kind of study. So our workshop is scheduled in two parts. In the first part, we will make a presentation of the outcomes of this study on indicators and analysis of science, technology, innovation, cooperation in the APEC area. And secondly, we present some overview of potential priorities for science and technology cooperation for the Russian Federation, which is a part of the, I would say, debating a new strategy for science and technology for the next period of time. So, first of all, I would like, and then the second part will be a roundtable where we'll have both government officials and experts presenting their views on the patterns, instruments, and prospects for science and technology cooperation in this region. So first, I would like to give a floor to Dr. Galina Sagieva from the Higher School of Economics with a presentation on the outcomes of this study on international S&T cooperation in the APEC region, please.
My presentation is based on outcomes of APEC project on STI cooperation in the APEC region. This project was initiated by PPSTI, Policy Partnership of Science, Technology and Innovation, the APEC, and proposal APEC economy of this project is the Russian Federation, co-sponsoring economies Canada, China, Chinese Taipei, Indonesia, and Korea. Today is the completion date of this project. The main objective of the project is to apply a measurement framework that would reflect development of cooperation in STI between APEC economies and analysis of their performance. The key results, outcomes of the project are the methodology guidelines on for measurement of STI cooperation in APEC region, publication of a special data book, analysis report, and workshop which will reflect the opportunities and challenges of development of STI cooperation in APEC regions, and analysis and performance of APEC economies in STI cooperation. Crucial for the measurement of the measurement system of cooperation in APEC region is composite index, which reflect such mentions as STI cooperation in patenting, in publishing, in inter-regional high technology trade and intellectual property transfer. Indicators of APEC composite index of STI cooperation include indicators will include such of them that are harmonized with statistical standards of such international organizations as OECD, World Bank, and UNESCO, and data which used in our study were from the databases of these international organizations. The using of relevant indicators allowed us to avoid differences in economic development of APEC economies. Analysis of STI cooperation in the APEC region reflected approximately average level of cooperation between APEC economies. To a greater extent in cooperation in patenting and intra-regional high technology trade. It demonstrates quite clearly APEC composite index landscape shown at the map, at this map. There are only two areas of the Southeast Asia and the North America with 30% of economies which dedicated dark and bright blue and have highest or quite high indexes of STI cooperation. The vast majority of APEC members, less intensely colored, are characterized by medium or two composite indicators of STI cooperation. Based on the cluster analysis of APEC index of STI cooperation, the APEC members fall into four different performance groups: Hong Kong, China, and Singapore, the economies with high growth rates and the best relative performance of STI cooperation in the APEC region. Canada, Malaysia, the Republic of the Philippines, and Thailand are economies whose composite indicators of cooperation activity allows to refer them in the middle high level group. These last APEC economies of three last APEC economies of this group seek to gain a foothold in foreign technology market and to increase the level of their competitiveness, including through the strengthening of cooperation ties which the development and rapidly developing economies of the region. Australia, People's Republic of China, Indonesia, Japan, Republic of Korea, Mexico, New Zealand, and United States are economies whose composite indicators allowed to refer them into the middle group of low level. The group mainly includes economies which are either self-sufficient or characterized by high scale of cooperation and simultaneously by high GDP and a number of researchers, as well as significant S&T output. These essentially increase the denominators of the relevant indicators reducing the value of the relative performance of cooperation. Chile, Peru, and the Russian Federation are the economies least active in STI cooperation in the APEC region. These economies are introverts whose STI output is intended mainly for the domestic markets of knowledge and technologies. Overall, the performance group memberships remained relatively stable, composed to 2005. The sequence of the economies in accordance with the value of the composite index has not changed. However, Singapore, Indonesia, and United States, being the economies that changed their group membership. First of them advanced from the middle high-level group to the most active group, and the two last from the least active to the middle low level group. Without upward and downward movements inside of each of the performance groups, the APEC composite index values have changed in 14 economies. In Australia, Chile, People's Republic of China, Hong Kong, China, Japan, Mexico, and the Russian Federation, the values are increased. And in Canada, Republic of Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, Peru, and Republic of the Philippines, and Thailand are decreased. The distribution of the APEC economies according to the value of the 4 sub-indexes differs from their distribution by the value of the composite index. However, economies with the highest values of the APEC composite index cover good position almost in all dimensions. For example, Hong Kong, China is the most active in 2 of 4 dimensions, such as cooperation in publishing and in patenting. In inter-regional technology trade, this APEC economy entered into the group of middle high level according to the index value. Singapore is the most active in 2 dimensions, cooperation in patenting and inter-regional high technology trade, and in 2 other dimensions, cooperation in publishing and IP transfer. This economy entered into the group of middle high level. Some other APEC economies reach top scores in individual dimensions. For example, Japan and United States demonstrate the best performance in intellectual property transfer. Indonesia in collaboration in publishing with co-authors from APEC members. The Republic of the Philippines Republic of the Philippines in all kinds of cooperation in patenting, including patent application with co-inventors from APEC economies, foreign ownership of domestic inventions, and domestic inventions made abroad. This slide presents the distribution of APEC economies according to the values of sub-index of cooperation in publishing. Hong Kong, China, and Indonesia are economies with the best relative performance in cooperation in publishing inside of APEC region. New Zealand, the Republic of the Philippines, and Singapore have entered into middle high-level group. Australia, Canada, Chile, Republic of Korea, Peru, and Thailand have entered into the middle low-level group. People's Republic of China, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, the Russian Federation, and United States are economies which the low relative performance of cooperation in publishing. The distribution of APEC economies according to the values of sub-index of cooperation in patenting is presented on this slide. Hong Kong, China, the Republic of the Philippines, and Singapore are economies with the best relative performance of cooperation in publication, in patenting. Australia, Canada, Malaysia, New Zealand, and Thailand have entered into the middle high-level group. Chile, People's Republic of China, Japan, Republic of Korea, and Mexico are included into the middle low-level group. Indonesia, Peru, the Russian Federation, and United States are the economies with the low relative performance of cooperation in patenting. Distribution of APEC economies according to the values of sub-index of APEC intellectual property transfer is presented on this slide. Japan and United States are the economies the most active in APEC intellectual property transfer. Canada is the only economy whose value of composite sub-index of APEC intellectual property transfer allows to refer it in the middle high-level group. It should be noted that significant differences of the values of the sub-index between Canada and Japan, which is in front of it. Australia, Republic of Korea, and Singapore have entered into the middle low group. People's Republic of China, Hong Kong, China, Chile, Indonesia, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, the Republic of Philippines, Russian Federation, and Thailand are economies with the least specific activities of intellectual property transfer in the APEC region. And at last, on this slide, is shown the distribution of APEC economies according to the values of sub-index of interregional high technology transfer. Singapore had the best of relative performance in intra-regional high technology trade among APEC economies. Canada, People's Republic of China, Hong Kong, China, Indonesia, Republic of Korea, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, the Republic of Philippines, and Thailand have entered into the middle high-level group. Australia, Japan, and United States are included into the middle low group. Chile, Peru, and Russia are the economies with the least specific activity in intra-regional high technology trade. STI cooperation grows differences in comparison with 2005 exist also within the dimensions. In general, the values of sub-indexes increased in dimensions of collaboration in publishing and intellectual property transfer. The relative performance of APEC economies wasn't slightly in dimensions of cooperation in patenting and intra-regional high-technology trade. Analysis of absolute data demonstrate the scale and intensity of cooperation ties. Data on intra-regional high-technology trade of APEC economies quite clearly define two poles of the greatest attraction: United States and People's Republic of China. If the total volume of high technology trade turnover of the first APEC economy decreased by 7.8%, the same indicator of the China significantly increased by 66.8%. In addition to these economies, a few of the Southeast Asia APEC members, such as Hong Kong, China, Japan, Republic of Korea, and Singapore, could be mentioned as active actors. Between these economies, the United States and China are close trade ties. This slide demonstrates the scale and intensity of collaboration in publishing between APEC economies. Data on cooperation of the APEC economies in publishing also quite clearly define bipolar science field, which the same two economies at the key actors, the USA and China. To a lesser extent, at the nodal APEC economies may be recognized Australia, Canada, Japan, and Korea. The number of joint publications of China has grown in comparison with 2005, almost tripled. The rapid growth of co-authored publications are also characterized for Chinese Taipei, Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. At the most intensive can be defined such pair ties as USA, Australia, USA, China, USA, Canada, USA, Japan, USA, Korea, China, Australia, China, Canada, China, Korea, China, Hong Kong, China, and China, Canada. APEC economies contribute almost 60% of global publications. Key areas of science specialization of APEC economies are engineering, earth and planetary sciences, material sciences, physics and astronomy, energy, biochemistry, genetics and molecular biology, chemical engineering, and neuroscience. Overall specialization profile of APEC publications is well balanced, and indexes of specialization for almost all fields of science are close to 1.0. Profile of specialization of APEC co-authored publications looks less balanced and more relief. The key fields of specialization reveals sharper and clearer. They largely duplicate the important areas of APEC total science specialization, in particular Earth and planetary sciences, biochemistry, genetics, and molecular biology, physics and astronomy, neurosciences. Defining the areas of interest to a great extent of the APEC economies in which R&D should be carried out by joint efforts in the age of globalization. In addition to these fields of science, rather significant values of specialization index are nodal in such areas as decision sciences, agricultural and biological sciences, immunology and microbiology, environmental sciences in which joint scientific projects are implemented most intensively. Thank you for your attention. If you have any question, I will be glad to answer you.
Okay, so we have, yes, thank you. So we have time to ask a couple of questions, please. Any questions? Okay. Thank you. So our next speaker is Anna Pikalova with a presentation on priorities for Russia's international science and technology cooperation.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. And my presentation is devoted to some methodological approaches that we used to identify countries and thematic areas for Russia's international S&T cooperation. A study of identification of science and technology priority areas for Russia's cooperation with foreign countries of different regions of the world is implemented by Higher School of Economics for the Ministry of Education and Science of the Russian Federation. The aim of the study is to provide information and advisory support for the Russian policy making in international science and technology cooperation. The range of analyzed countries was limited by a maximum of 25 countries located in North and South America, Europe, Asia, Africa, and involved in different communities like BRICS, APEC, European Union. It doesn't mean that other countries are not out of interest of Russia for cooperation, but for this project it was such a pilot number and specific countries. I show in this slide and highlight just several APEC economies which were involved into our study. The methodology of study includes a combination of three approaches. First of all, bibliometric analysis of publications of 25 countries and Russia for the period from 2003 to 2014, indexed in Web of Science. Analysis of science and technology policy, strategies and programs of 25 countries, and experts survey, both Russian experts and foreign experts. Bibliometric analysis of publication activity is well known as an instrument for assessment of the effectiveness of scientific systems. Our study is based on data from Web of Science because it has a detailed classification of research areas, which was important for our study. For each country, the following indicators were analyzed: number of publications in Web of Science, position and share of country in the global number of publications, thematic structure of publications, values of scientific specialization index in different fields of science. The study covered 39 fields of science. A list of thematic areas based on Russian long-term science and technology development forecast for the period to 2030 was also used in the bibliometric analysis. We conducted also 3 rounds of expert surveys with representatives of 38 Russian research organizations, and these representatives identified Russia's partnership countries in science and technology thematic priorities. The second round was with science and technology councillors of 15 foreign embassies and delegations located in Russia. This survey and interviews allowed us to identify countries' science and technology priorities and areas for science and technology cooperation with Russia. And the third round of the survey was a distance survey of foreign experts, authors of joint publications with Russia. And such a survey allowed us to identify prospective areas for international science and technology cooperation with Russia. We also analyzed science and technology strategies and programs of 25 countries, and where we can see priorities for science and technology development and directions of international science and technology cooperation with other countries. Today, the global economy and society are facing many global challenges, and solutions to these problems directly affect the scientific and technological sphere and go beyond of individual country and are only possible on a regional or international level. And when we analyze strategies and programs of the countries, we found that such science and technology priorities are very important for many analyzed countries. And such priorities are rational use of natural resources, energy efficiency, information and communication technologies, life sciences, food security, new materials, nanotechnology, transport and space systems. To respond to these challenges, modernize national technological sphere and secure economic growth, Russia approved a number of strategic documents and programs as well, including priorities fields for science and technology development and forecast of science and technology development until 2030. On the next slides, I will show some results that were obtained under our study. The implemented bibliometric analysis shows the share of top 38 countries in the global number of publications in the Web of Science in 2030. The global leader is the United States of America, with almost 25% of world publication output. China is not so far behind, with 70.3% of global publication output. And Russia is taking 16th place. Among the traditional leaders in science and technology development, publication numbers rose only slightly since 2003. But the role and positions of new players like China, Taiwan, Mexico, Malaysia, Singapore in some fields are intensified significantly. And the table shows that since 2003, Malaysia, for example, make frauds in nanotechnology. And you see that, for example, in multidisciplinary, Mexico, China, Malaysia, Taiwan also has index has rose the number of publications. Another area in which bibliometrics is actively used is the analysis of internationally collaborated publications. Here in the table you can see that the main Russia science and technology partners, according to Web of Science for the three period of times, is United States of America, Germany, France, United Kingdom, and other countries. But it is interesting to notice that some countries increased significantly the co-publication activities with collaboration with Russian researchers. Such countries like China, Czech Republic, Australia, and India, Turkey, and South Africa. Index of scientific specialization is used to identify the scientific fields in which the majority of a country's publications are concentrated, therefore to assess interest of the country in development of one or another scientific area. The scientific specialization of a country can be determined by comparing the thematic structure in its publications with the global structure of publications. Index of scientific specialization of a country in the scientific field is calculated as the ratio of the share of countries' publications in this specific scientific field in the total number of its publications to the equivalent figure for the global structure of publications. If index is more than 1, the scientific field is considered formally as a field of a country's specialization. On the contrary, when the index is less than 1, it is considered that the specific research area is out of interest of the country. In applied research, the fields of scientific specialization for China, Taiwan, Malaysia, Singapore, Republic of Korea are new materials and nanotechnology and innovation and communication technologies. For Mexico, for example, biotechnology, for Russia, energy efficiency and rational use of natural resources. For Japan, new materials and nanotechnology, medicine and health. In basic research, Russia has a high specialization indices in traditional for Russia fields like physics, materials engineering, and mechanical engineering. For Russia, for China, the high index of scientific specialization is in engineering and chemical sciences, Japan, physical and chemical sciences, for Malaysia, engineering sciences, for Mexico, physical and chemical sciences, for Taiwan, engineering and physical sciences. Key thematic areas of Russia's science and technology collaboration are physical sciences and astronomy, as well as chemistry, physical and other physical sciences, mathematics, and physics mathematical. Bibliometric analysis has limitations. Country figures are defined by the presence of journals of specific countries in a given bibliographic database. Work publication activity could be attributed either to the absence of research in this specific field or to the presence of only one country's journal in this area in database. Another very important aspect here is the language of publication. The English-speaking countries, by definition, have preferences among other countries, since analysis of publications only gives a general overview of cooperation. Another method which we used was expert surveys. I disseminated a questionnaire to the representative of 38 Russian research organizations and universities in such fields of science like biology, engineering, physics, mathematics, chemistry, medicine, and geology. And we received responses from all these representatives, and it was highlighted that Germany, United States of America, China, France, United Kingdom, Finland, Japan are the most now key science and technology partner countries. Partnership countries in the key thematic areas selected by the Russian experts showed that for information and communication technologies, the main countries for partnership are Germany, Israel, and India. For medicine and health, United Kingdom, Germany, France, Sweden. And you can see in these slides which countries were selected by the Russian experts as the main partnership countries. The next expert survey was a distance survey of foreign experts. We selected foreign authors of 10% most cited joint publications with Russian researchers. It was about 10,000 co-authors. Then we disseminated a questionnaire with the list of 30 thematic areas in applied research within 7 approved priority areas in Russia, and asked experts to select among these areas the most important for cooperation with each country. We received 530 completed questionnaires from 19 countries, which allowed us to highlight the most promising science and technology areas, both selected from the list of the Russian priorities and also others suggested by experts for cooperation between Russia and foreign country represented by experts. The result, we combined all our study using all our approaches, and for each of the 7 priority areas, thematic priority areas of the Russian Federation, we identified the partnership countries. For example, for information and communication technologies, I show this table, and we have such results for each of 7 thematic priority areas. Of course, we understand that implemented study is not all-encompassing, and it is important to look at other processes too. For example, existence of common research interests, availability of modern equipment for joint centers, groups to carry out experiments, strong skills in a particular area, personal contacts, youth exchange programs, joint educational programs, institutional research laboratories, new scientific journals, joint monographs and reports, and regular communications. And I think that we will continue our study and use some more methodological approaches and take to our analysis other countries as well. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Any questions, please? Please, Phil.
Thank you. Very detailed presentation. Just a general comment I found with the last 2 presentations, it's very hard to get the big narrative. So you have many, many tables, data, they're going all different kinds of ways. So maybe just something to kind of keep in mind as to what exactly the big story is that you're trying to communicate to us. But I do have a specific question on your presentation, and I'll approach it this way. When we've looked at nanotechnology international collaboration, many of Russia's international collaborators in nanotechnology are Russians in the international diaspora. It's particularly strong in Germany. You certainly see it in the UK and the US. A little bit less in Asia, though there's certainly a number of Russian researchers in Japan. So I just wonder, I didn't see you mention that. In some ways, it's a great strength that you have Russian researchers around the world collaborating, but it seems something that you might want to pull out and give it some additional, at least some attention to. So that was just my one specific comment to a very informative presentation.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Any other questions? Yes, Kuniko, please.
Okay, thank you very much for detail of data. Actually, our organizational step also analyzing exact same way for that. So, but your last presentation is showing that yes, this is very, very important because this is a list of priority areas and the recommendation of the to Russian R&D to the other countries. But it seems like, of course, it's USA. It's listing all of the topics, and also the China and Japan are the same. So probably, if I'm the policymaker, then I would like to ask you, then what is the most priority of issue for that? Okay, this is my one question. The other question is, basically you analyzed the database from the Scopus, so which means only articles?
Web of Science.
Okay. Anyway, based on articles. But have you considered about the patent with this article too?
No, we did not use patent, just bibliometric analysis of publications and expert surveys. What are the most important areas for cooperation? We took the priority areas for Russia development in science and technology areas 2030, and there are areas identified where Russia can take some leading positions in some thematic areas. And also there are some areas where Russia has weak positions and, for example, had some experience for the development. And we also identified with which countries it is the most important to have an experience from which countries. And, for example, in which areas Russia can propose some its experience to which countries. It was in two ways identified these priorities. For example, in this table, in all these areas, we advise to develop cooperation in the way of take an experience from these countries. And it is identified for each thematic direction and for each thematic priority from this forecast.
Yes, thank you very much. But what I want to say is that some of the area, like especially engineering, it's not easy to publish a paper because it takes a long time. So, but they are making a lot of patent. So therefore, if you want to analyze those, the data should be better for that.
So I agree with you. And of course, if we then analyze the patents, and it will improve our study. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, again, add my voice to very impressive piece of analysis that you guys have done. But I'm going to make a suggestion going forward. I agree you have to do the patent stuff, and that's because different countries have different priorities at the academic level and publications. Secondly, I'm going to give you a name, and then I'm going to tell you why I'm giving you the name. The guy's name is Richard Clavens, and he's Map of Science. And Leonid, you're going to want to, I'll introduce you to if you want to bring it in. He does this for a living for universities and for countries. And the idea is, let me tell you what I want to see for the next step. You don't make relationships, and pick up that 2030 thing again. I liked when you held it up. 2030 happens, that piece of paper, not because of relationships with countries. It happens because of relationships with people. And in fact, HSE has been very good at not identifying the countries, but the people. Many of us around this table here don't come from big countries. You shake your head, Japan's big. Canada, Vietnam, we're small. And so what Dick does, and I want you to think about doing, is you look at the map of networks of the individuals who are in the domain. And you may find that there are 3 or 4 people that are critical, that are linked in with those networks in the United States or in Japan, and they happen to be a Russian who's living in Lithuania, for argument's sake. And that's what the mapping software allows you to do. So great first step to see what the countries are that have expertise, but to make this happen, carry through an HSE strategy of those few people who are highly connected within the network, and Dick's the guy that's got the technology and the techniques for mapping it out. So if you want, I'll do the intro between you guys, but good stuff.
Yes, thank you very much for your suggestion. And I can say that now we are continuing our study, and we are trying now to identify research organizations and universities in foreign countries and Russia which cooperate to each other. It is also an aim of our continuation of our project.
Please, any other questions? Okay, if not, then I would like to thank the presenters. I'm sorry.
Can I ask a small comment? I would like to come back to the first presentation on the international STI cooperation. When I look through your methodology, it seems that most of the data you use is using the publication and patents data and then trade in high tech. But as you can see that in APEC region, we have some advanced country and some not so advanced country. And one way I see that the cooperation in terms of innovation is about the dissemination of innovation. And that happened through, one of the important channels is through capital good trading. Developing country buy capital good from advanced country, and on the way they learn technology. And in a way, a lot of international cooperation at the firm level. So I think that if you also take that dimension in your methodology, that can improve or bring us more clear picture of that size of cooperation.
We want to include technology transfer in our analysis, but this is a methodology developed by OECD, and the only 8 or 10 economies of APEC are included in this survey. In this OECD survey, so we couldn't use this methodology approaches, and we try to exchange the technology transfer by intellectual property transfer. This is this is methodology which developed by the World Bank, and database of the bank includes all economies of APEC region. So I think that it was we have to change our methodology because of the absence of data.
Maybe kind of going from that, I mean, I just maybe add another thought, maybe another study. What's the point of international science and technology collaboration? It seems the way that you're defining it in your study is in which countries can you collaborate where it's of benefit to Russia? Of course, that's a really important criteria. But it seems there are other roles for science and technology exchange. Because you're a developed science and technology country, what can you give to other locations? So if you ask that question, you would wonder, what's the next set of countries that you might be involved with? And that would lead you to thinking about relationships with less developed countries in Africa and in other parts of the world. And certainly if you benchmarked with European and US and Chinese, you will see that they're doing that. So it seems like there's another side of the coin. So it's almost like the places you don't have relationships with, you need to investigate those and kind of see, is there something that you can give as a developed country to the broader process of development? Science has a role in that.
Yes, thank you very much. It is really very important and very interesting aspects for the future study. And of course, we will propose to our ministry such approach to cover more countries for the study. Yes, we will do this, and we are going to do this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. If you don't mind, I join this session. I invite everybody to take a coffee break, and then we need to get together in, say, 20 minutes for the roundtable discussion. Thank you.